Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. If you really want success, start with your mindset, says our guest, Paola Knecht. Paola, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you've written a book, The Success Mindset, and I said to you before the show, that is absolutely the perfect title for our show. It couldn't fit better. But you say that a lot of people you deal with obviously feel that their life is unsuccessful. Why is that?
You know, Bill, we used to believe that success is written in stone in some cases. When we look at Hollywood stars or influencers nowadays on social media, we follow a blueprint of what we believe success looks like. And some people unconsciously follow that path. Some others wish to have what they see on the screen or on the TV and follow that path as well, only to find out or to hit a hard wall at the end, because one day you wake up, maybe you reached a success milestone that it meant a lot for you. For example, I don't know, you have a steady job, a good salary, or a nice house. But then for some reason you feel empty or anxious or developed an addiction or overconsume. And these are clear indicators that something went wrong in your quest for success.
Well, you tell us, which is great advice and gives us a lot of hope, that we have the power to define our own success. And I think we forget that. In reading your book, it seems that like a lot of us jump over that. We go to school to be an English teacher or an accountant or a policeman, and we feel that's the only thing we can do. And maybe we're not really happy with that. Is that the problem with a lot of people? They're kind of stuck in a rut that they're not happy with?
Yes, I think actually most of the people, the big majority of us, fall in that trap.
I was going to say, you mentioned it before, but we seem to be following what the new term today would be influencers, whatever that really means on the internet, sports stars or wealthy business entrepreneurs, and feel we have to make money because somebody else may have made $1 million buying a company or selling it or buying real estate, that we have to do that. And yet that doesn't make us happy. And I guess it leads to unhappiness. Is that the problem?
Yes. And the source of that is because you are not being true to yourself. You're not following the path that really will make you happy. And you listen to other people while trying to do your life. You try to lead it in a way that actually was meant to please others. And unfortunately, many people find it rather late in life, but this is a key message to learn also for younger generations, that you can question yourself really. Is the path, is the study I'm going to choose to spend 4 years of my life or more really going to take me where I want to be? Will this help me to be the person I want to become? And will lead me to go towards something meaningful in my life? Will I do a positive change in society if I do this? And I think we don't ask ourselves those questions very early in life.
Well, your book is great because you put them out there and you kind of force our hand. Now, I found an interesting term early on in your book. You talk about something, I think it's called the Confrontation to Reality Crisis.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, and I can give you a story of that. I once had a client and she was very successful in her profession. She had a big position at a pharma company, earned a lot of money, had a lot of respect from their peers, and she had a leadership position. And she was at the middle of, the middle of her life, let's say. And she told me when she came to consultation, Paula, really don't understand what happened. But one day I just woke up and felt like my life has not really a meaning. I don't feel comfortable with what I'm doing anymore. I believe that something is missing, and I don't know what it is.
And I guess that's indicative of why you have what the book you have and why you do what you do, because there's a lot of people who kind of need help. I'm going to say getting back on track. Is that what we're looking for?
Yes, and reconnect with your vision. I believe that everybody, each one of us has a vision. Some of us don't know it yet, but I believe that we are born with some sense of inner compass that already is giving you some indication of what your life is meant to be, or who you are meant to become.
Now, most of us, I guess, would say we're ordinary. We don't feel we're below ordinary, but we're just kind of on that middle range or average. What differentiates the ordinary from the extraordinary life?
I believe that, and this is a wonderful question, because it's really the question that triggered me to write the book. I have a long life passion for learning from great leaders and people that made really bigger contributions in society that they ever thought possible. And I always questioned myself, what was different? Why are they so special? What did they do differently than the ordinary person? And I found that most of them, after intense reading, researching, and also observing from leaders I met on my community, my studies, my work, I found that the traits that they have personality traits that are quite similar and quite repetitive. And doesn't matter which leader I observe or research or interviewed, they all, from the business arena, from sports, from the arts, writers, they all follow similar traits of personality traits, I would call,
And
that kept them.
You've done the work for us, so that's what we want to find out from you today. And I know from your book, you make it really a very easy path. Obviously, we have to do it, but I'm looking at them saying, you know what, these are things that everybody has. And as I said to you before, as soon as I saw this book, I marked it excellent for our show. So we want to get some of this information from you. We look at money, fame, popularity, and sports skill as wonderful things, and we would all like to have them. But honestly, day to day, who was doing more for society? If I compare it to the first list I gave you, I wrote down the doctor, the teacher, the policeman, the architect, the engineer. They're building bridges for us. They're saving lives. The policeman is going out, whether he helps a child cross the street safely or catches a victim or stops a crime. They're all doing meaningful things. Is it to get more meaning in our life rather than just look for the superficial popularity or money?
I mean, if you were meant to be a police, then I believe that then you were dreaming as a child to become one, right? You
Probably, yep.
You dressed up as a police, or or if you wanted to be a chef. I think that doesn't matter which profession you choose if you feel that your joy. You're joyful to do that you really feel satisfied, that you find meaning in what you do. I think that's the important thing. Whether it's being a doctor, a policeman, or a writer, it has to come from the inner sense of you, that love you had as a child, what you like to do, what you enjoy doing, what brings you satisfaction. I don't believe that it's very sustainable to just choose a profession for money, because maybe that brings you willpower for a while, some motivation, but as soon as you get bored on it, it will fail out, and you will not do your best or do any extra job to become the very best at what you're doing. The only way to become the very best of whatever profession is to love, to have a passion for it, to be curious about learning more and more and working hard on it. And the only way that you can keep that energy up for so long and despite failures and disappointments, it's when you love what you do.
Now, Paola, at this point in the show, we want to remind our listeners that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Paola Knecht, Knecht. Her book is The Success Mindset, the perfect name for our show, or the perfect title. And Paola, can you tell us where we can get the book and if there's a website where we can learn more?
Yes, so everybody can visit my/mindpower.com or also get the book on amazon.com. And I'm available in all social media just by writing my name, Paola Knecht, or also my/mindpower.com.
So my-mindpower.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want people to know that because you do make it easy. You help us on this path, and I really like the way you break it out for people. And you make a good point, you say during the book, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know you're living your best life? And, of course, that's a question I guess most of us don't take the time to sit down and think of. We're so busy doing the little things every day, picking up children at school, taking the pet to the vet, et cetera, et cetera. Can you give us some tips that would help us find out if we're going in the right direction?
Sure, with pleasure. One of the best things to start with is to, first of all, find out what you really love doing. Because what does it mean to follow or to choose a direction? You need to have a view of how do you see yourself, how do you imagine your life will become if you will do what you are dreaming of.
A vision.
And a vision.
A vision,
yes.
okay.
And so the first step will be that find out what you love. For example, in my case, I love to write. I sat and I really sat with a sheet of paper and alone with my thoughts, and I really started just writing, okay, what is what I love to do, or I do the most, and I don't realize it during the day, but most of the times I'm writing, I'm talking to people, I'm trying to help them to solve problems on their daily life. I love to listen. I love reading and discovering about successful people, etc. So that gave me already an indication. Okay, I'm meant to become a coach. I'm meant to become a writer. And I just start shaping little by little what you could possibly do with your daily life and reaching towards that vision. Another element is as well which things you're very good at, because that also gives you an indication of what you love and you can become excellent at, is often linked.
Now, you mentioned, I think, and we talked about it before on pages 23 and 24 in your book, you mentioned some things that we might not think of when looking at a job. We think in categories like policeman, fireman, chef, engineer, architect, surveyor. Yeah. But there's things that, or abilities, I guess might be the right word. Can you tell us some of those? And you mentioned a couple with yourself. You love to write and you love to read books. What are some of the other items that a person could look at and traits that they could see in themselves?
If self-introspection is very important, because often people don't like to look at themselves and say, I'm very good at this, because who am I to tell that I'm really good at that? If you have difficulties in finding yourself what you're good at, you can also ask other people to tell you. For example, your parents or your closest friends, colleagues at school, or your teachers, your mentors, everybody. And then you can get a good view of, okay, maybe I'm good with numbers, I'm good connecting with people, and I didn't realize that. Maybe I love to coordinate projects or organize events, or I love speaking in public, or I love interior design. I like to arrange things and that they look beautiful. So you don't have to think on categories like I have to be a teacher, I have to be a policeman, or a, you know, thinking cubes, but you can also think on events or in situations that you enjoy taking part of, or activities that you love to do, your craftsmanship with your hands, you know.
I'm looking at your list, and you say some of the things: very good at getting things done, a good strategist, good with discipline, good at coping well with uncertainty. Now, I would never think of those things. That's why you're a great writer. You come up with them. But just if people realize, because I found that most people don't realize their best traits. They do them so easily that they don't realize other people have problems with them. Occasionally I go to a wedding and I'll see someone dancing, and they're lovely. They move so lightly, and if I get on the dance floor, it looks like something's broken. I'll try to do a move, and if anything, people would laugh, and they'll be nice not to laugh, but I know I'm not a good dancer. And yet some people just naturally can get out there, and they probably don't even practice. They're just good at it. They're light on their feet, and they almost look like they're floating around the dance floor. Or the business person who can make a decision quickly where someone else might take forever. So you make some great points, and I think people may not realize, they may think it's just a trait they have, and yet in some businesses, getting things done is obviously the key part of the business. Making a decision, following up on it, coming up with a strategy, that can be wonderful. I mean, you could guide a major company with that, but you don't realize it because you think, or the person might think, they're only a housewife or they're only a cafeteria worker or something less. You recommend that people write down this vision or their mission. Can you give us an example of, for instance, what you would write about yourself?
Yeah, the exercise that I recommend doing, and I did it as well for myself, is to connect several things in one statement. One is what I love, what I love to do, what you believe you're good at. That connects you to a sort of passion. That is where you discover, okay, this feels, and this, I get so much energy when I do this. I love this. I love the outcome. I love how being myself in this situation. And then I also look at vocation. So what I'm doing, what I love to do, and I'm good at, how can I use this to make a service in society, to put it at the service of others? And then the next question is, how can the world can become a better place if I will do this service to others?
You also say, and I think you have a big section in your book on this, be bold when you're saying this, right? We don't have to be humble.
Yeah, I think you have to think the highest possible. Do not constrain yourself because you think you're a little person. The biggest problem in our society is that we think we are just a little person that cannot reach much, because it was our education that told us that. But when we were little, we never thought of limitations or who you are or who you're not. You just were there. You express your uniqueness, and I believe that everybody has unlimited potential to become whatever you want to become in life. But for this, you have to think big. You cannot stay it's like the Plato's allegory that you stay in a cave just looking at the shadows and thinking this is reality, because you're just sitting in there looking at the wall and you just look at the shadows on the wall.
You've given us inspiration because, as you said, if we look at that little child, they can do something for hours. They're not looking at a clock. And sometime we'll find it very boring. They'll just take a little train and run it around the room 600 times, or ask you to reread a book 4 times, or a video. But they're enjoying it, and they're getting the most out of life. And if we really think of it, do we really know, even if we're at what we might call the midpoint in life, we're 40 or 45 or 50 years old, but if we have 5 or 10 more years, or 50 years, don't we want to enjoy them to the max? And you're giving us the way to do it. Paola, in case people are tuning in, I'd like them to know that they're listening to The Secrets of Success. on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Today our guest is Paola Knecht, Knecht. She wrote a book called The Success Mindset, which is the perfect title for our show. And we're going to ask Paola where we can get the book and if there's a website where we can learn more.
Sure. So you can go to my-mindpower.com to learn more about the book and the coaching services. And you can find the book on Amazon.com.
Now, are people afraid to confront these questions that they might find out maybe they're an accountant and they'd really love to be a teacher or they'd love to study nursing and do something different, but that's going to be a lot of work?
Yes, absolutely. I actually believe that they self-deny their realities and they prefer to do something else. For example, after a long day of work, how many people dedicate an hour or half an hour of their evening to just sit and think of bigger goals than, waking up for the next shift next day and then spend the day, the rest of the evening just watching TV or having a drink or, doing some small exercise. But very few people really like to confront themselves with bigger questions, with profound questions.
But the reward is happiness. Is that what we're going to find? And success?
More than happiness, I think, is true meaning.
If we
something that goes more profound. I believe that the secret of being happy is believing to the core that you're meant to do something bigger than yourself. And that you can do it, and that triggers a lot of energy, motivation, and passion too.
And having a goal to work for, not only that, it's a lot of fun, whether it's going back to school, getting 3 more courses in to finish them, or studying at home. Now, of course, we can do this at home, so we can, through Zoom, through conference calls, we don't have to often go to the location. So it's easier than ever to do some of the things you're talking about. I think it's on page 44 in your book that you mentioned there's 3 questions we should ask ourselves. Can you tell us what those are?
Yeah, it's basically, when you think of your vision or when you have discovered it, the next step for me will be to ask yourself, are your values in line with that vision? So what do you value the most in your life? That will be a question I will ask you. The second is, are you living your life in line with what you value the most?
And the third one?
If not, what is getting in the way?
I think that's the one I like the most because sometimes we don't want to say it, but let's say some people are just wonderful with children and they might feel they get more social status as an accountant or a surveyor or some other position. And yet, if they would go into a school or work as a coach or a mentor or a tutor, it would give them more meaning, I think, to their life. And what is getting in the way? Do they have to go back and get a few more courses, which really may not be much? It might be if they already have a degree, it could be, I'm guessing, 3, 4, or 5 courses, which that's probably about 6 months to a year, depending how they do it, if they give up all the time or if they do it part-time. And the reward would be that they could be doing something meaningful that they really love and is part of their vision for the rest of their life. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, that's a goal I think all of us want. I think you mentioned, too, we have to expect anything like this is going to come with changes. So who do we have to look for? Do we look around for immediate support or outside support?
Once you have decided on a path, it's important that you build a supporting environment to help you reach your goals or where you have decided to move after. And one of the first things that I believe is first crucial is to first do a self-retrospection and see if your values align with your behaviors and actions. And if something is getting on the way, if you're not behaving on acting on behalf of that vision that you have, then just look for support. look for somebody that can help you, a mentor, a coach, or follow someone you admire that has been already on that path and can give you a good example of what to do when you feel stuck, or gives you inspiration about how they solve certain problems, or how they achieved the things that you want to achieve.
And you mentioned, I wrote this down in your book, ask yourself, how many of my activities and behaviors get me closer to my goal? And I think that's a good one, because a lot of time we just do things, and I know I'm guilty of this. At the end of the day, I'll say, what did I really do? I watched television, I walked the dog, I picked up the laundry, but really nothing meaningful that could have accomplished something, made things better for the world. So if I follow the questions in your book and your advice, I'm going to be a lot better off, and that's what I'm going to do. Paola, once again, I want our audience to know our guest has been Paola Knecht, Knecht. The book is The Success Mindset. And please, once again, tell us the website and where we can get the book.
Sure. So the website is my-mindpower.com, and the book you can find in amazon.com.
Paola, thank you so much for being with us today. You've given us some good advice. I'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.